Less Taken contains content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listeners' discretion is advised.
Less Taken.
Underneath a mix of smoke and spice is the lingering stench of death. Chicago police and detectives step into the dimly lit corridors of the adolf-luetgert Sausage and Packing Company. Their lanterns cast long shadows on the walls, where copper kettles and sausage links sway gently in the draft. The men fan out, their boots echoing on the wooden floorboards. They pass rows of wooden crates filled with salted pork and beef, but it's not the provisions they see. One of the detectives' gaze is drawn to a door at the far end of the room, its frame darker than the rest. The room beyond this door is shrouded in darkness. At the far end, one of the detectives can barely make out a large furnace. It's not glowing, but the heat in the room is still rather oppressive. And in his mind, it was burning hot not too long ago. "There," one of the officers calls out, pointing to a large vat near the furnace. It's a monstrous thing, covered in grime and soot. One group of the officers gathers around, looking down into the vat. At first, it seems empty, but as their eyes adjust, they see it. A sludge of potash lie in what might very well be human remains. The other half of the group moves to the furnace and peers inside. Quite clearly, there's some sort of bone matter mixed in with the ashes. Among the remnants, a glint of gold catches the detective's eye. He reaches in with a gloved hand and pulls out 2 rings, one with the initials LL engraved on it. The room falls silent. They've found what they've been searching for, what they feared. But this is not the end. Now they must piece together the story of this individual's tale, a story that will lead them into the darkest corners of a man known as the Sausage King of Chicago. You're listening to Sausage from Hell, the 8th story in July 4th special from Less Taken, Season 3. If you're new to the show, we cover a different food-based horror story for our July 4th episodes. Why food? Not completely sure, but it started with tacos, went to pizza, and now we're at sausage. Unlike tacos and pizza from hell, we're not covering a haunted restaurant. Instead, we're exploring the horrific, true story of a man of many nicknames, such as the Sausage King of Chicago and Murderer. Please let us know what you think of this episode or any of our episodes by leaving us a 5-star review wherever you're listening, or whatever you think is fair. You can also leave reviews at our official website, lesstakenpod.com. There, you'll also find episode notes, sources, notes, media, and merch. Use the code SAUSAGE for 15% off any order until August 1st. Follow us before we follow you on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads under the handle @lesstakenpod. I'm CM Humphreys, and this is Less Taken, real-life horror stories from the Midwest. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy Sausage from Hell. The detectives continue to comb the factory basement, paying special attention to their findings around the vat and furnace. They have a good idea what they're looking at, but they can't simply make assumptions. To investigate their suspicions further, detectives start asking some of the sausage factory's employees if they've noticed anything unusual around the factory lately. They are absolutely dumbfounded by some of the information they receive. Frank, one of the factory's utility workers, explains how the business isn't as great as it once was. They hardly use the vats or the furnace. But then, one night, Adolf-Luetgert, owner of the A.L. Sausage and Packing Company, instructed Frank and a few others to bring a load of potash into the basement and mix it into what would become a foul gray slime. Potash isn't something they frequently dealt with at the factory, and Frank swears he peered inside what became of the mixture one night and spotted what he thinks might have been human remains. In order to make sense of any of this intel, the detectives need to learn more about the owner and closely examine some of the finer details of his life. Adolf-Luetgert's story does not begin with the sausage factory. It starts with rather humble beginnings and far away from Chicago, Illinois. Born December 27, 1845, Luetgert grows up in Germany as one of 16 children in his family, and a twin at that. During his formative years, he learns by watching and assisting his father with trades, which include tanning, working with animal hides, and real estate, of all things. Luetgert finishes his schooling at the age of 14, while many of his peers continue on with their educations. It's not an unusual age for children of tradesmen to drop out. He continues his way around Germany, learning more about cattle, dealing with the actual meat, and tanning. His travels around Germany aren't as fulfilling as they sound, however. His endeavors have little to do with leisure or fulfillment. They derive from desperation. He continues around Germany because he struggles to find a job, or even another apprenticeship. By the time he reaches 19 years old, Luetgert is off to London, England. But there too, he faces the same hardships and barely survives 6 months. During his short residency, he's lucky to find a job scrubbing floors. Luetgert finds himself backed into a corner. He's tired, hungry, stressed, and broke. As an overwhelming sensation of hopelessness settles in, he gets wind of a place full of promise. A place where tradesmen with little money could go find work and make a decent living. The United States of America. The year is 1865, and the Atlantic's tumultuous waves crash against the hull of a ship bound for America. Adolf-Luetgert, 20, stands on the deck, his gaze fixed on the horizon. With only $30 in his pocket, which is about $1,300 in 2024, he is fueled by stories of his countrymen finding fortune in this so-called New World. The ship docks in New York City, and Luetgert steps onto American soil, his heart brimming with determination and what might very well be a sense of hope. It's been so long since he's had any that he hardly recognizes the feeling. After a brief stint in New York, Luetgert travels to Quincy, Illinois, where he joins friends of his eldest brother. In Chicago, Luetgert finds work at the Union Hide and Leather Company, but the job is unsteady, the pay inconsistent. He takes on odd jobs, moving furniture by day, dreaming of a better life by night. Rinse and repeat. Leaving Germany might seem like a terrible decision at this point. No matter where he goes, things look and feel about the same, and he spends all of his energy hunting down these temporary jobs. His hands, once soft, are now calloused from labor at tanneries like Engel Crossley and Company, and later Craig Clark and Company. Yet, he returns to Engel, driven by a vision of success. Or perhaps because he's circling back after exhausting every other alternative. By 1872, Luetgert's perseverance pays off. He saved roughly $4,000, or over $151,000 in 2024, which is a small fortune for him or anyone else in his family. He ventures into the liquor business, but pivots to meat processing and establishes the Alfred L. Luetgert Sausage Company in 1879. Luetgert never thought he'd see the day when he opened the door to his own meat processing facility. Yet, his professional successes aren't his only source of fulfillment. Amidst his entrepreneurial pursuits, Luetgert's personal life quilts both joy and sorrow. He marries a woman named Caroline, and together they welcome two sons, Max and Arnold. Sadly, in a cruel twist of fate, Caroline passes away unexpectedly in 1877, leaving Luetgert a widower to take care of the children all on his own. 2 months later, Luetgert finds love again with a woman named Louisa-Bicknese. Their marriage is swift and a balm to the grief that lingers in the Luetgert home. Louisa brings life back into the household, and together they have 4 children, though the shadow of loss looms as only 3 survive past the age of 2. Adolf-Luetgert, once a hopeful immigrant, now stands as a testament to the American dream. Louisa is proud to stand by his side through all of his trials and triumphs. But perhaps she wouldn't be if only she knew about the dark twist their future holds. April 29, 1897. Inside the Luetgert household, 6 children wake up without their mother. Their father, Adolf, is preparing, ostensibly, for yet another day at his struggling factory. When the children inquire Louisa's whereabouts, he assures all of them that their mother simply went to visit her sister overnight and hasn't come back yet. Either their father doesn't know whether their mother will return, or he just doesn't care. They're not too sure which. They don't know about the financial struggles Americans faced during the Panic of 1896, the bind it put on the sausage factory, the strain it's put on Adolf's and Louisa's relationship. The children, especially the eldest, have heard a few rumblings late at night, but they would have never fathomed just how much and how often their parents really fought. How badly their father abuses their mother. What Louisa doesn't know, at least to what extent, is that her husband has been seeing another woman, a rich widow. And Adolf Luetgert has plans of becoming a widower himself for the second time, and soon. April 30th, 1897. Adolf-Luetgert and his wife, Louisa, arrive at the sausage and packaging company late at night, around 10:30 p.m. Louise is not exactly sure why they're there, but it's something special, something her husband doesn't seem to want too many people to know about. Maybe it's going to be a discussion about selling the factory. She's been wondering when the subject would come up. It's been a bit of a premonition of hers lately. Whatever it is, she's not too sure if she's comfortable with it. It all gives her an uneasy feeling. And her husband dismissing the night watchman with a few frivolous errands doesn't help matters. Once Louisa and her husband are all alone in the factory, she expects him to either break the bad news or show her some super secret project or something. Instead, he shows her arsenic, and then a vat of potash and lye. The sun sets over Chicago, casting long, jagged shadows across the busy streets. Inside the police station, there's a certain uneasy stillness, save for the low murmurs. A few days after Louisa disappears on May 1st, her brother Deirdrick steps through the door, his face etched with concern and dread. He approaches the front desk. His hands tremble against the scratched wooden surface, as though trying to drum out a soothing beat. The officer behind the desk looks up from his paperwork, his expression shifting from indifference to curiosity as he listens to Deirdrick's story. Soon, the officer's pen scratches across the sheet of paper, capturing every last detail of Louisa's disappearance. The officer nods, his face expressionless, serious. As Deirdrick leaves the station, the officer prepares to delve into the mystery of Louisa's disappearance. The case will soon unravel into one of the most notorious investigations in Chicago's history. But for now, it begins with the brother's desperate plea for answers. The morning sun filters through the grimy windows of the adolf-luetgert Sausage and Packing Company. The police move methodically, their eyes scanning every corner for clues. They gather around the large vat near the furnace, the site of their grisly discovery. The lead detective examines the small pieces of bone and the slime-like substance found within. He holds up the gold rings, the one engraved with the initials LL, and the room is silent. These are the remains of Louisa-Luetgert, and the evidence is damning. The detectives spread out, searching for more clues. They find records of large quantities of potash purchased by adolf-Luetgert, a substance known for its corrosive properties. Workers at the factory recount strange activities on the night of Louisa's disappearance, and the detective notes their testimonies with grim determination. In the office, they uncover financial records that reveal Luetgert's mounting debts and the pressures he faced. The pieces of the puzzle begin to fit together: a troubled marriage, financial strain, and a desperate man. The lead detective gathers his team, their faces set with resolve. They have enough evidence to arrest Adolf. The bones, the rings, the potash, and the testimonies all point to one conclusion: the Sausage King has committed a heinous crime, and justice must be served. As they prepare to leave the factory, the detective takes one last look at the vat, the silent witness to Louisa's tragic end. The scene is set for the next chapter in this dark tale, as the police move to apprehend the man responsible for the horror that unfolded within these walls. They're going to arrest the self-proclaimed Sausage King of Chicago. Luetgert is taken into custody without much incident, his poker face nearly a mask of defiance. The once proud Sausage King is now a suspect in one of Chicago's most notorious crimes. The trial begins in late August 1897, held in the Cook County Courthouse, with Judge Richard Tuthill presiding. Luetgert is defended by William Vincent, while the prosecution is led by Charles S. Deneen, a rising political star who would later become the governor of Illinois. The prosecution presents a compelling case. Forensic anthropologist George Dorsey testifies that the bone fragments found in the vat are human, including parts of the skull, rib, and a foot. The defense argues that these are the bones of an animal used in the sausage-making process, but Dorsey's testimony is convincing. Friends and relatives of the Luetgert family testify to Adolf's abusive behavior and infidelity. The media frenzy surrounding the trial turns it into a spectacle, with reporters from New York and London covering every detail. The first trial ends in a hung jury, unable to reach a unanimous verdict. A second trial is held, and this time Luetgert takes the stand in his own defense. Despite his efforts, the evidence against him is just too strong. On February 9, 1898, Adolf Luetgert is convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. He is sent to Joliet State Prison, where he dies of natural causes the following year, on July 7, 1899. The case leaves a lasting impact on Chicago, with rumors and legends persisting long after the trial. The ghost of Louisa-Luetgert is said to haunt the old factory grounds, a spectral reminder of the dark events that once unfolded there. From then on, the old factory stands silent, its once lively halls now echoing with the whispers of the past. The A.L. Luetgert Sausage and Packing Company, once a symbol of prosperity, a poster child for the American dream, is now a relic of a dark chapter in Chicago's history. The factory grounds go on to become the Regal Loft condominiums, but still hold their secrets. Residents of the condominium speak in hushed tones about the strange occurrences that seem to plague the building from time to time. Flickering lights, unexplained cold spots, and the faint sound of footsteps in empty hallways are common tales. Some claim to have seen a spectral figure, a woman in a long dress, wandering the grounds. The ghost of Louisa-Luetgert, they say, haunts the place where she met her tragic end. Her presence is felt most strongly near the old furnace room, where the remnants of her body were discovered. The factory's transformation into modern living spaces has not quelled the restless spirit that lingers. The story of the Sausage King and his ill-fated wife continue to echo through the halls of the old factory, a chilling reminder of the past that refuses to be forgotten. Thank you so much for checking out Sausage from Hell, the July 4th special from Season 3 of Less Taken. Be sure to let us know what you think of this episode or any of our episodes by leaving us a fair rating and review wherever you're listening. You can also let us know what you think by visiting our official website, lesstakenpod.com, and there, not only can you leave reviews, but you can also enjoy our additional content and merch. Right now, we have a special going on that's kind of nifty. Buy any official Less Taken hat and receive 15% off a t-shirt. Same order, no code needed. And our Witch's Grave Medium Roast coffee is still available for a limited time in our merch store. Use the code BEANS and save $1 when you try it out. Oh, and you can stack this discount with the others too. If merch isn't your thing, you can also support the show by buying us a cup of coffee at buymeacupofcoffee.com/lesstakenpod. The link is in our episode notes. Follow us before we follow you on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and probably some other places, under the handle @lesstakenpod. We love sharing early snippets on our Instagram page, so be sure to check it out. A quick note on our storytelling. While we do our best to stick to the facts when we tell these real-life horror stories, we sometimes take creative liberties to maintain narrative cohesiveness. I'm Sam Humphreys, and this is Less Taken, real-life horror stories from the Midwest. Thanks for listening, happy Independence Day, and I hope you join us next Wednesday for a preview of our next story.
Chase County Productions.